Today, I want to talk about developing confident body language. Now, we all know that first impressions are huge, right? There used to be some study that said 90% of all communication is nonverbal and kind of what people feel from you immediately. While I don't think it's that high, I do think it is essential. The way that you carry yourself, the way that you look at somebody, the way that you present yourself, all conveys a deeper message, and it's a huge influence on how they perceive you and how they feel an immediate connection to you. So if you're coming into a social interaction and you've got low body language and you're kind of sitting there huddled and you're talking or avoiding eye contact, no matter what you say, it is just not going to come across well and leave a good lasting impression on someone. Also, guys, stay to the end because I'm going to give you 2 super practical exercises you can do to really train yourself to have that good body language. Now, as always, before we get into the practical tips, I love to talk about the mindset around developing confident body language. Because a lot of men feel like, well, I'm socially anxious and I'm nervous in these situations, and that's why I have really bad body language. And they think that their mental state or how they feel in that moment is driving their body language, and that's why it feels hard to change. But I want you to know that it actually also goes the other way around, where if we intentionally change our body language to feel confident and expressive, we start to feel that way internally. And you can easily validate this in a lot of ways, right? A famous example that I love is try to think of something that makes you really sad. They'll tell people to close their eyes and imagine something that really makes them upset or makes them sad, and it's pretty easy to do. Now, if you try to do that same exercise with a huge dopey grin on your face, and you're like, hey, I'm trying to be sad, it's almost impossible. It feels insane that you're trying to get into that same headspace and everything about you is like, no, you're not that sad or whatever. Again, the way that you carry yourself will actually change the way that you feel about yourself. Another interesting study I've seen recently is that depending on the type of computing devices you use during your day, that largely affects your energy levels and mood. So the smaller the device, the more likely you were to feel low energy and kind of in a bad headspace. So if you're on your phone all the time and looking down, then it's kind of the worst case scenario. If you work on a tablet or a laptop and something smaller, you feel a little bit better. And then generally people who work on a desktop and sit up or a standing desk tend to feel a little bit more high energy and loose throughout the day. And why is that? It gets into our first of 2 major principles that make for good body language. And that's being open versus closed. So open body language can be thought of as any time you're kind of exposing yourself physically to an attack even, right? They actually think if you notice the times where people are most closed off in their body language, it's around pressure points or arteries. So on their wrists, on their neck, even under their armpits, there's a major artery there that basically if it got stabbed, you'll floods your heart with blood, I think, and kills you pretty quick. So what do people do when they're feeling closed body language? They tend to tighten their arms and protect either their armpits or their wrists. They tuck their head down so that their neck is protected and that major carotid artery. Instinctively, when we feel scared, we tend to close our body up and protect the parts that we feel most vulnerable with. So let me give you some examples of, again, open versus closed body language. Okay, in general, when you're walking around or standing around during the day, I want you to look at the horizon. I want you to keep your head, straight. I want you to have your chin up and just walk through the day carrying yourself that way. If it's hard, most people, again, are accustomed to walking through the day looking at their phone or kind of being checked out in the world. And you're basically sending subconscious signals to your body be scared, be small, be protective, even when you don't realize it. So kind of just picking up your head and looking straight ahead into the world really changes your demeanor there. In terms of the way you stand, right? If you stand really tight and small, whether it's on your arms or you stand with your legs close together, then again, you're taking up less space and being protective. And the better way is to just kind of leave your arms a little bit open, leave your legs generally standing shoulder width apart. You don't have to be absurd like they used to say back in the day where you open up your body really large and take up an silly amount of space or anything. It's just about like standing comfortably where you don't feel tight or restricted. So again, shoulder width apart, arms open a little bit. Even they say when you talking sometimes with palms up or like kind of just facing the person like this is a lot more open than going like this or pointing with your hands down, because you again are protecting the most vulnerable parts of your body. Sometimes you'll notice when guys are at bars or parties, they'll have a drink in their hand, and what do? They put the drink right in front of their body. Protection. Don't stab me in the heart, ladies. Instead, I'd rather you just kind of like drop your drink by your side while you're talking, and you can always bring it up to have a sip, but then it should go back to hanging out by your side. You'll notice that when guys are going walk up to a woman, or they're in a social situation they're uncomfortable with, they'll shove their hands straight into their pockets. And a better way to do that, either put one hand in your pocket and one kind of outside or just, resting on your back, or kind of hook your thumbs only into your pockets and leave them mostly hanging out where just your thumbs are kind of in there. You can also leave like one hand in your back pocket, that's fine while you're talking. But generally, shoving both hands fully into pockets is a really tight, small, kind of protective position. So also keeping your kind of chest out a little bit and your shoulders back is also really confident body language. A lot of men, again, misunderstand this and they think it's like puffing your chest artificially out or something like that. But actually, it's just about kind of relaxing and carrying yourself high. So a good technique for that is actually if you like pick up your shoulders and scrunch them by your ears, and just kind of let them fall back, they'll kind of rest back on your shoulder blades, and naturally they'll just open up here and kind of extend your chest out. So you're not like artificially pumping your chest out like this, but you're just kind of letting your shoulders drop back and they rest a little bit back while you're talking and hanging out, and they should rest comfortably there. The other major part about having good body language is about fast versus slow. So in general, we perceive fast movements, twitchy movements, nervous movements as less confident. You'll notice that guys who are really kind of nervous talk fast, or they feel like they need a rush to get things out, or when they move or somebody calls them, they're like really twitchy and move quickly. So like when you're walking, you're not like speed walking to get through a destination, especially in a social space, and you're not like, walking like pretend cool or suave. You're just walking strong and comfortable and with purpose. If your friend was to call your name, you don't like snap your head as fast as possible to over there. You just kind of look over casually and you get to it. When I'm gesturing, I'm not going to be like, although sometimes I do on YouTube, you don't go, like, yeah, I'm telling this story and you're going really fast and talking and okay, it just feels really intense. But I'm going to be purposeful. I'm going to talk with my hands and express myself openly and comfortably. So again, the motions feel a little bit more controlled, a little bit more slow, a little bit more purposeful. If I'm going to take a seat next to a woman on a bench, I'm not going to like rush to awkwardly plop down. I'm just going to kind of take my time, sit next to her, and lean back and start talking to her. Even when you're going for a kiss, guys, you take your time, right? You look at her, you pull her in nice and gentle, you kind of bring your bodies together nice and slow, you gently move towards her, and you go for a kiss. You don't just like, grab her by the hand, lean in and go, mwah, and suddenly plant one on her real quick. It just feels more abrupt, it feels more nervous in your energy, and you kind of relaxing and being a little bit more purposeful helps people relax and kind of step into that themselves, because we're always mirroring body language. So that's a key that you have to remember is when you're closed and tight and you're like moving fast and you're doing this, it's not that just people perceive you as really anxious and nervous and awkward. It's that they feel they can't relax around you themselves, right? They can't just be loose and enjoy themselves. There's actually a cool psychological experiment where when you're talking to somebody, if you intentionally cross your arms, you can get a lot of people to cross their arms. Or if somebody has crossed arms and maybe you're talking the same way and you open it up, then they also kind of usually do the same and they feel a lot more relaxed. Okay, let's recap and then get into the practical exercises. First, understand that the way that you carry yourself also influences your mental state. It's not just the other way around where if you're feeling bad, you're going to look low. If you change the way you carry yourself, you will feel better internally. 2, confident body language starts with being open versus closed. And 3, it also helps to be more slow and purposeful rather than fast and twitchy. Okay, so now let's talk about two practical exercises to really strengthen that confident body language. The first is the golden rope exercise. And this is where you imagine kind of a rope from the crown of your head pulling you straight up while you're standing. So you kind of start at a sloppy position or whatever, and you allow it to pull yourself straight up. So it elongates your spine, it keeps your head straight as you're pulling it. And if you need to, you do that exercise again where you shrug your shoulders and let them fall back. So then you kind of pull yourself straight up, and it helps sometimes to imagine that to really kind of get that length in the spine and stand strong and upright. The other one is like the 3-point touch exercise, which is you put your back to a wall, okay, and you lean back against the wall while standing, and you want to make sure there's 3 points touching the wall. 1 is the back of your head, 2 is your shoulder blades, and 3 is the back of your heels. If all 3 of those points are touching the wall, so again, you do the shoulders, your blades are touching, your head's forward in there, and your heels are back, you probably have good body language. You are standing tall, everything's in alignment, and that's how you carry yourself confidently. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe below, hit the notification bell, and as always, share any comments on what's worked for you if you have any other exercises or if you need any clarity on how to implement this in your life.